In the previous segment, we looked at how you can make Expression Web show you things differently. In this segment, we're going to look at how you can make Expression Web do things differently. Okay, let's open Chapter 2, since that's the video segment we're working on. Let me show you something kind of interesting too. If you have a lot of pages open and you want to clear it out, you can always go Window, Close All Pages, and it'll knock them all down for you. And then we'll just open the one we want. Great. So what we're going to do is, first, let's take a look at the Site Settings dialog box. It's kind of a plain looking dialog box, but it doesn't really kind of have the appearance of the importance that it actually carries. And so from this dialog box, you can modify every aspect of the site you're working on. One of the things I always do is make sure that this is checked. Maintain the site using hidden metadata files. If you don't have this checked, there's a lot of things you won't be able to do. You won't be able to automatically update hyperlink references. You won't be able to use dynamic web templates and so on and so forth. There's absolutely no reason not to maintain using the metadata. And if you have to give it to somebody that doesn't want metadata, it's easy enough to remove it, because when you click this button, the metadata gets stripped. Let's go to the next tab, Preview. Now, this segment here lets you use the Microsoft Expression Dev Server for all pages or for PHP and ASP only. I like to keep it on all pages because let's say we have a link that's just to a folder like sample site/images. Well, if you don't have the dev server feed the page, you'll just get a Windows Explorer view of that folder. So that's not very good. Here you can path the site in particular to a PHP version. And so why this might be helpful is because let's say you want to set your application options, which we'll see later, to use a specific version of PHP, but you're also working on a site that you want to make sure will go a version back, maybe 2 versions back. You can set a particular PHP version to be the one that's used by a particular website, and you do it right here. And then this preview using custom URL, this works great if you're opening a live site via FTP. You can switch from FTP to HTTP when you hit the preview, and we can get into that much later. In fact, it's in the final chapter, and we'll see how this works to help us out. On the Advanced tab, you can do hide folders that begin with an underscore character. And it kind of seems a little strange, but what you can do is if you enable that option, you can hide folders from other people who may be using it. So if you, let's say, name this underscore files, it would be invisible. Underscore images would be invisible. I believe the only folder name that would still be visible even with an underscore would be underscore private, and that shows no matter what you do. This is where you can set your language. This is where you can set what type of page encoding. And these things basically can stay as they are for the most part. Obviously, if you're going to go on a different language but you have an English keyboard, you check this. This one's real important. Let's say Expression Web starts acting strangely. It doesn't feed pages right, loads up, starts acting slow. Hit that button and it will delete the temporary files that Expression Web creates in order to help it function. And every once in a while the files become overburdened and you just have to blow them out. That's the first place to go and look if you have problems. Now on our last one, the Publishing tab, you can add publishing destinations to here, which we'll get into in the last chapter again. You can edit a publishing destination that exists, and you can also delete them. You can include subsites, which we'll get into again in the last chapter. Subsites are like a folder, but Expression Web will see them as a completely independent site and not publish them unless this is enabled. Optimize HTML during publishing. I'm going to hit that, and then we'll hit Customize, and it gives you this broad range of things that it will strip out. It'll strip out dynamic web template comments and HTML comments and all sorts of stuff, Be very careful when you're using this, because if you push it up to the web while stripping out these comments and something goes wrong on your local copy, you can copy it back, but you won't get any of your HTML comments. Your dynamic web templates won't work right. I almost never use that. And then obviously log changes during publishing, and then you can view the log file. And then that's it for the site settings dialog. Another important but kind of low-key dialog is Tools, Application. So in this Application Options dialog box, you can set the path to PHP. And this is not the same as the path to PHP that we saw in the site settings. This is an overall path to PHP that will be used if there isn't a setting in the site settings dialog. So you have an option for opening the last site automatically when Expression Web starts. You can clear that and it will stop having that behavior. You can check to see if it's the default editor for web pages. You can do show the status bar or not show the status bar. I recommend showing it. Proxy settings, and that's just going to throw you to Internet Properties, which is a Windows dialog, not an Expression Web dialog. Configure editors is kind of neat. So let's say, for instance, you're working with a PHP application that uses a .tpl file. So we'd add new extension, and we would give it TPL, and then hit OK. So there's our TPL, and then what we're going to do is we'll add the editor, and that's Expression Web open as HTML, which is what you want. A TPL is usually a template file used in PHP, but it usually contains just the trim of a page, often like a dynamic web template, but with server-side capabilities. Then we can go to Reports View, and you can define what recent, what older, what slower pages are, and so on and so forth. This is fairly self-explanatory. And then on FTP, you can select or deselect using passive FTP. And then here's a bunch of extensions that will be transferred as ASCII, which would be like a text file. If it's not ASCII, then it's binary, which would be like an image, a movie, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much it for the application options dialog. When we get into the next video segment, we'll come back to this, and I'll show you how to set the path to PHP after I show you how to install PHP so that the Expression Dev Server can use it. Okay, so what the Expression Development Server does is it will, by default, throw any ASP.NET, which is the extension ASPX page, through its built-in server. And this is nice because in the past you'd have to install a web server or you'd have to publish your page to the web. Now I've just created a simple ASP.NET page. And there it is. And what I'm going to do is go into Files, and I have this file here, and it will also be in your sample files, and it's server var ASCX. So we'll drop it in here. And that's actually the way that you install an ASCX, that's a web user control, into an ASP.NET page. So let's just save this. I don't really care what it's called because I'm going to delete it immediately after. Now, we'll click it, and then we'll hit the preview. And there it is. It opens, and you'll see http://localhost, and this is a random port number, and then there's my page, untitled1.aspx. Now, if it wasn't running ASP.NET, it could not execute that code. And what we can see is all the server variables, localhost, untitled1. In fact, even if we roll down, we can see our server software, Expression Dev Server. And so there's really nothing you need to do in order to make the ASP.NET Expression Dev Server run. It will run if you preview an ASP.NET page. In the next segment, I'm going to show you how to rig PHP so that the Expression dev server can run PHP pages. It's not very hard, but there's a couple of little tricks that'll make it a lot easier. Okay, in this segment, I'm going to show you the easiest way to install PHP for the Expression development server. And so first you'll go to php.net and you'll download their executable. And it's obviously executable for Windows in this case. We'll right-click it, install, run. You have to accept the license agreement. And this is where it's going to be installed. That's fine. And what we want is other CGI. And leave the defaults and then hit install. It's a very quick installation process, but once it's done, there's a little trick I want to show you that makes it a lot easier to deal with from an Expression Web standpoint. So we'll let this run until it completes the install. Yes, I want to allow it. Okay, great. Validates the install. And as it runs through, it removes installation files. It takes care of everything just like any other piece of software getting installed. When it completes, we'll go on to the next step, which is, it might seem minor, but it makes a huge difference in allowing or enabling Expression Web to do what it needs to do in order to make this work. Great. So that's it. That's installed. Click the Finish button. Now what we're going to do is go to the Windows Explorer. We want to go to the computer. We want to go to Program Files. We want to come down to PHP. And what we'll do is we'll go back up, and then we're going to right-click this and Properties. We're going to go to Security. And what we'll do is look for the users, and this is just any random user. Edit it, and we're going to allow everything to the random user. Hit OK. Not random user, but generic system user. And then OK. Now, since we've done that, it's going to make it writable, and Expression Web will be able to do what it needs to do. Now, we're going to set this, first of all, I want to take this away from this executable. We're going to get rid of it because I don't want it to path to the wrong one. And we're going to go Tools, Application Options, Browse, and we're going to go into C. We're going to go into Program Files, into the PHP, and we're going to pick that, PHP-CGI, and then hit OK. Our next step to test it is New Document, PHP. Between the body tags, we will put this. And all that is a PHP command that shows the info of the web server. We're going to save it, again, just like the ASP.NET page, don't care what the name is, and we'll preview it. The PHP file is not configured correctly. You're going to see this because Expression Web wants to configure it. So we'll say yes, and this is the reason that we did that permissions trick previously, just so that Expression Web would have the capability to change that any file. So we hit yes. The error, don't worry about it. It definitely updated it. It throws to the browser, and there you go. PHP version 5.3.2. We would not be seeing this if PHP wasn't running. You know that it's in the Expression dev server because localhost, there's the random port number, and that's the page that we saved right there. So if we slide down, this is very detailed, much more detailed than the ASP.NET page that we were looking at, but it gives every parameter of the PHP. And so there you go. You've set it. Now, so let's take a look quickly. We'll go 5.3.2. We can see that. Let's come back to the site setting, and we'll do Site Settings. And so in the Site Settings, we'll go to Preview, and we'll use an executable just for this site. We'll hit Browse. We'll go up one level, and we will go into PHP 5213. So we'll go into that, grab that CGI file, and then hit OK. Now, all we need to do is preview this one more time. It spins up the expression development server, and you can see that unlike before where we had 5.3, we're back to 5.2.1.3. And so basically the way it works is if you don't specify an exact version of PHP in the site settings dialog, it will default to the one that you have set in application settings. The reason that you might want to do this is if you wish to test your application in a certain version of PHP, but yet you want to run generally the most current version of PHP, this setup here is ideal, where you can pick one version in the application and then a different version specific to the site. And so that's basically the way you do it. Same situation of marking the folder as writable to the anonymous user account so that Expression can rewrite the ini file to what it needs it to be. And so there you go.